Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. George McGinnis. Not only is he going to be enshrined in that ring above us in 47 days, but he's also one of the great champions in professional basketball history. Not only is he a two-time ABA champion with the Indiana Pacers, but he's a he's a six-time All-Star, both in the ABA and the NBA. He's a member of the 30-man ABA all-time team, and his career is one that spans generations. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a Springfield, Massachusetts Hall of Fame 60 Days of Summer welcome to the one and only Mr. George McGinnis. What an incredible honor today, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Amazing. Here you go, sir.
Can I sit down?
Yes, sir, please. Welcome to Springfield, Mr. McGinnis.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm gonna start, if you don't mind, with the question I usually end with, because this is an incredible honor for me today to be sitting with you today, just 47 days before your eyes will be looking down on this floor.
Yeah.
So I want to open by asking you what this moment is like to be here right now speaking to these people below the Hall of Famers where your face will soon be.
Well, it's kind of surreal because when I was a kid, just like you guys, I never dreamed of one day possibly being in a Hall of Fame, any Hall of Fame. But just over a period of time, it just happened. And I couldn't be more honored. I thought about this for the last 2 or 3 months, and every day I get more excited as time goes by and it gets closer to induction time. So it's an unbelievable honor.
We talked a little bit back there when you just walked in about how when you got the call,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was forever away, and now it's getting so much closer.
Yeah.
Are you finding the emotions have sort of leveled off, or is the excitement starting to really build?
Well, I seem to be getting more nervous, you know.
Really?
Yeah, when I got the announcement, I was way up here, and I came down, and now I'm kind of going back up again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been pretty good, yeah.
Now, your basketball journey is one that starts with incredible success. First, it begins in one of the great states in basketball's. You're an Indiana guy.
I'm from Indiana. Larry Bird, you heard of Larry Bird, right? Yeah.
And in high school, your George Washington High School teams were legendary. I mean, unbeaten, state titles. But your personal experience in that 1969 team, where you were scoring 148 points in one playoff run.
Yeah.
How important was that run to a young George McGinnis and instilling the drive to continue to push?
Well, you know, it was just, I was in the moment.
Yeah.
And my hero growing up was a guy by the name of Oscar Robinson. He played in Indiana high school basketball in 1954, 55, and 56, and they won the state championship in 55 and 56. So when I was 6 years old, me and my dad got to see that 56 game. So that was instilled in my mind and the image it left. And so right after that game, every kid in our neighborhood went outside and started shooting hoops. You know, that's what we all wanted to do. So that was an inspiration. And so when I finally got to my senior year in high school and we went 31-0, we didn't lose a game, just like Oscar's team, and we kind of fulfilled that dream on March 22nd, 1969. It was great. It was just incredible.
There's something about Indiana guys who play basketball that like to stay in Indiana. And so you did that for college. You chose Bloomington. You played at Indiana and became the first sophomore to lead Big Ten in scoring in rebounding as a sophomore. And this is an era, for those who maybe don't know or don't remember, where freshmen weren't allowed to play.
Right.
So this was your rookie season on the varsity, and you're leading the Big Ten in scoring and rebounding.
Yeah.
What was it about the transition from high school to freshman to varsity that just seemed to look so effortless on you?
Well, I was big and strong at the time. I know I'm on a cane now. That's after multiple back operations, you know, I worked hard. I had always had good coaching, good coaches when I was young. When I was you guys' age, I could really learn I could dribble the ball very good for a guy my size. Fundamentals in Indiana are is a very well taught subject for young kids, and they teach them how to play the game the right way, how to handle the ball with your left hand and right hand. You're constantly doing drills. So big guys in my era didn't put the ball on the floor. They were more inside players, so I could take a guy outside and play, and that's where I thought I had an advantage. But yeah, it was great. I didn't look at it like it was a big transition. It was just tougher competition, but I was prepared for it.
And speaking of preparing for tougher competition, after your sophomore year, you increased the competition again. So on behalf of our friends at Hager Clothing, who graciously are providing all of the Hall of Famers with their Naismith orange jacket that you'll have in just a few weeks, I'd like to ask today's Hager's Innovators question. Now, after Indiana, you went directly to the ABA,
yes.
Stayed again in Indiana,
right.
And played for the Indiana Pacers of the then ABA.
Right.
And then won back-to-back titles. It was the mark of a real trailblazer. What were the main factors in your game fitting with the ABA style? Because it was a different style than the NBA.
Yeah. If you go back to 1971, 72, 73, the NBA was not a fast-paced game, but one that was pretty slow, pretty methodical. Big guys stayed in the post. It was an inside-out game. Celtics played a little bit different game than most teams because they were so good, so talented, and so well coached, and had such good players. You saw they could get up and down, with Havlicek and those guys. They were great. So the ABA was kind of a wide open league. Three-pointers, the first three-point shot that came from the ABA, and you see it all now in the NBA. We had a 30-second clock, and we talked years and years about going to a 24-second clock, and it didn't happen. But that fast-paced game, the excitement, the dunk contest that you see in the NBA All-Star game, that all came from the ABA. The skills stuff, it all came from the ABA. It was kind of a wide-open league. It was getting up and down. You saw 130 to 140 every night was a normal score for an ABA game.
I love it because after the 74-75 season, and with 2 titles and an MVP trophy from the ABA, you moved to the NBA with the Sixers,
yes.
Where you teamed with some guy named Irving.
Yeah.
Some guy named Dr. J. I wonder whatever happened to him.
Yeah. Well, I was there before he got there.
That's right.
The year I got to the 76ers, they had won like 7 or 8 games the year before. Yeah.
So looking back, what were the main factors in you making that ABA to NBA transition? Well,
the ABA was suffering financially. They were trying to compete against the NBA, and it was tough. It was a dollars and cents thing for me. I had never made at that point over $50,000 a year, and so I was offered a substantial raise, and the Pacers couldn't even come close to it. So, the most I ever made in my career that I took home was $275,000. So. And I had some deferred money in that, but I just, it was a matter of economics, and I just had to make that decision. I didn't want to leave Indiana. I loved living there and playing there, but it was just economics.
Sure, and I'm curious, because a couple of years later, after the ABA-NBA merger, which was really more of an NBA absorbing a couple of teams,
sure.
when the ABA folded,
right.
Was there ever any wish that maybe you just stuck it out for a couple of years because you'd still be on the Indiana Pacers when they were absorbed into the league?
Well, the decision had been made, and I thought the folks in Indiana understood why I did what I did. Whenever I went back, they always were very nice and cordial to me, the fans. So, no, at the time, you can always think about things, how you could have been if this would have happened, but I never tried to look back. It was something that happened, and I think I would have done the same thing and had it happen again, but I was happy with the way things went.
We talked a little bit about the difference in game between the NBA and the ABA. But when you make the move over in that 74, 75, 76 transition, there were, even before the merger, a lot of the younger players were making the same move because of financials. Sure. It was their chance to be paid better to play the game that they love.
Right.
Could you feel the game in the NBA changing as more ABA guys were coming?
Absolutely. I remember the first, when the leagues merged, the first All-Star game, there was at least almost half the players were from the ABA.
Yeah.
So it, you know, of course, Dr. J came in and he lit the league up with his, you know, his pure excitement, and he was unbelievable. But we had other players, George Iceman Gerving, Gilmore, Issel. I mean, it was just a bunch of really good players over there.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a really exciting time because I get to let you know that after this question, I'm going to ask you if any of you have any questions for soon-to-be Hall of Famer, for Hall of Fame class of 2017 member George McGinnis. So at that moment, I'll ask you after this question to raise your hand, be recognized by one of the fantastic Hoop Hall staffers. They'll put you in line right over there. So you have this question to start to kick around, maybe something that you're wishing that I would be asking right now. Now, the era in which you played, the 70s and early 80s, saw one of the greatest evolutions in the game of a 12-year period, really. And part of it has to do with the ABA being dissolved into it. Can you talk about the way that the locker rooms and the players were sort of reacting to the way that those changes were being implemented?
Well, it happened kind of quickly, too.
Did it?
Yeah, it really did. Some players were very receptive to it because they felt like they had been held back. They were ready to show their full potential. And the way the coaches coached, it was more of a very, I would say, methodical brand where you walk it up, you get into a play, and you don't deviate from the play. No matter what the defense does, you kind of stick with that play. Well, the ABA was a more reactionary type thing. If a guy got in front of you, you know, you didn't have to go left or right or pass. It was just you reacted to it. And that's what happened. And I thought most of the guys, especially in the NBA, loved it because it gave them a certain amount of more freedom to be more creative.
That was the moment really when we started to notice the styles of individual players as well. It really
absolutely.
was.
Yes.
Sort of it was the precursor to the modern era of basketball.
Well, that's what started brands.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask Mr. George McGinnis a question, now's a chance to raise your hand. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come by and recognize you. George, you made a stop in Golden State before returning to Indiana for your final two seasons.
Yes,
How important was, for you personally, for you to be able to bring it full circle and to finish with the NBA Pacers?
Oh, it was great coming back home. I had gotten hurt by that time. I wasn't half the player that I used to have been, but I was so appreciative of the Pacers picking me up at the end of my career and letting me play the last 2 years of my career there. And that's where I lived. I grew up. That's where I met my wife. We went to the same kindergarten, the same junior high, the same high school. And we've been married for 41 years. So it was just a great way of life for me, very simple. And when I was able to end my career there, it was perfect.
It's absolutely, and it's the most remarkable thing to me about the George McGinnis story. All of the scoring and all of the honors, and it's the incredible loyalty that you've shown to all of the places along the way.
Yeah.
Is that something that is intentional, or is that just intrinsically in George McGinnis?
Well, you know, I had really good parenting. I was really lucky. I had a great mother and a great father who both worked extremely hard. My father was killed on his job, working to help support our family. Yeah. And so I learned that at an early age, that if you want something, you work for it. You always respected your elders. You had respect for other people, no matter what their differences are. And you'd be better off in the world living that way as opposed to, you know, fighting every fight that you think is out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, here's the bad news, George. The hard questions are about to start. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, come on over. Let's get it rolling. I only have 2 requests. Come on up for the first question. I only have two requests, that you let me hold the mic and that you introduce yourself before you ask your question to Mr. McGinnis. Is that a deal? I hold the mic and you introduce yourself? Fantastic.
Hi,
Hi, what's your name?
Nico.
Hey, Nico, how are you?
Good.
Good.
What's one of the hardest games that you had to play in your career?
What's one of the hardest things in sports, you mean? Well, I was also, I was almost drafted by the Dallas Cowboys in football. I was an All-American football player for 3 years in high school, and I decided that I probably would be better off physically playing basketball. As you can see, I walked in here on a cane, so maybe I made the wrong decision. But that was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, was make a decision whether I wanted to pursue football or basketball after my high school career was over and going on to college.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nico.
Thank you, Nico. A little round of applause for Nico, please, as we get the next question up. Come on over. That is a problem that I'll never have, having to decide between playing basketball at Indiana or playing for the Cowboys.
How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good.
My name's Eric. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Aaron, how are you doing? Good.
I had a question regarding, you said growing up in Indiana, they focused a lot on fundamentals.
Right.
And especially in the old basketball leagues with like the ABA and the early NBA, you see players like Bob Cousy and you know, Bill Russell. And
Bob Cousy would have been a great ABA player. He would have been perfect for our league,
That's what I was wondering. When you hear people say criticisms to how athletic the players are today, what do you say to them when you hear like the records that someone like Wilt Chamberlain would had? How do you think they would compare to today's NBA players, and how do you adjust those critics who say that they wouldn't be able to?
Well, I think sometimes players, you know, we all have egos, and you know, some of these present-day players think that, and they are, they're better, but they've got better. You know, kids are smarter, but they've got better. You know, we teach our kids that early. They got computers. You know, we know a lot more about kids than our parents did when I was growing up. I just think you're exposed to more things. Kids, we were just talking. I was talking with Fran and my wife. You know, now you have a kid who's in kindergarten. If he or she can't read, she's behind. He or she is behind already in kindergarten. Where when we started school, that's what you went to kindergarten to do, is to go read and learn to read and things like that. But I think you always respect the guys who came before you. They're the ones who built the bridge. And you're just walking on it and getting all the benefits from it. So instead of being critical of, you know, you're better than they were, I think Cousy, Russell, Chamberlain could play yesterday, today,
think they can too,
and tomorrow. They could play in today's game, no problem.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Nice question. Okay.
Thank you. A little round of applause. Fantastic question. Here come the real hard questions, I can tell. Someone's dialed in.
Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Emily.
Hi, Emily.
What year was your first game in?
What year was my first pro game?
Yeah.
It was 1971, and it was October of 1971.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Have a good day.
Thank you, Emily. That was a good year for Emily, 1971.
Yeah.
All right, keep it rolling. Perfect. Here comes Larry. Hey, speaking of Indiana.
Hey, Larry Legend. All right.
Hello.
Hi. You're a Larry Bird fan?
No.
Oh, you got his jersey on.
Well, yeah.
Okay. All right.
My name is Brady, and I was wondering, what is your favorite memory of playing basketball?
My favorite memory is when I was young, it was about a sophomore in high school. We played our tournament at a place called Butler Fieldhouse. Butler University now is a big basketball program. Brad Stevens now is the coach of the Boston Celtics. He's from Butler University. But when we were kids, that's where all the state championship games were played, at that Butler Fieldhouse. And it was always on radio. This was in the 50s. And so we would go there as young kids and sit in our dad's car and listen to the game on radio so we could hear the crowd coming from, we could hear them when somebody scored a bucket. And, it inspired a great movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hoosiers.
Yeah.
But that's where that game was played, right there in Hinkle Fieldhouse. And the guy hit that shot as Bobby Plump.
Yep.
So I was 4 years old. I remember it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brady. Brady, you've really seen Hoosiers? All right, thank your parents for us. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
All right, come on, I have 2 more questions. That was not the answer I expected.
Yeah, I know.
He's seen Hoosiers.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Matthew.
Hey, Matthew, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
So my question is, how did you like playing in the ABA versus the NBA? And
I love them both. I really enjoyed playing in the ABA. And then when I got to the NBA, it took about a year or 2, but that league changed more toward the play that we were playing in the NBA, in the ABA. So I loved playing in both of them. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Have a good day.
All right, thank you, Matthew. I wanted to mention, the more time you spend in Massachusetts, the more time you're going to realize a lot of kids between the ages of 0 and 13 are named Brady.
Oh, yeah,
Something
Brady.
about
Yeah,
that
something
name
about that.
in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
It's not a bad name.
Hello, my name's Alex.
Hey, Alex, how are
My
you?
question is, what team besides the Pacers did you want to play on when you started to go to the NBA?
Well, I love the Celtics. I always loved the Celtics, but when the team drafted you, when I played, they kept your rights for lifetime. So that means if Philadelphia drafted me, they kept the rights to my playing in the NBA throughout my career. So I couldn't play with another team except for them. I actually signed with the New York Knicks. Yeah, and they took us to court and they won the case. So I had to nullify that contract and then re-sign with the Sixers. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bring in the closer. I'm reminded so often just about how much the Players Union has done for players' rights.
Lots.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
Dylan.
Hey, Dylan. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I'd like to know, what do you think that your best play in basketball in your career was the best like play?
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a really unbelievable story. I told you I had good parenting. I had a good dad. He was a big guy. He was about 6'6". And the last game he saw me play was a high school all-star game in Indiana. Our big rivalry is Kentucky. Like in Boston, the big rivalry would be New York, I guess, a big rivalry. But it was a high school all-star game, and that was the last game he saw me play. I scored 53 points and had 30 rebounds in that game. So that's the best memory I've ever got in my mind about. That's the last time my dad saw me play.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's well said. Whoa, 50 and 30.
Yeah.
You could tally up all my stats for my whole career, Mr. McGinnis. 50 and 30. Thank you very much, bud. Round of applause.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Wow. I told you those were the hard questions.
Let me tell you something. You kids are really, really well prepared. They ask great questions. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give one final round of applause for
you.
Mr. George McGinnis?
Thank you.
Now, Mr. McGinnis is going to head on over to that table now. So what I'm going to ask is a couple of things.